You know what else you hold in your hands? Justice. That's what you hold in your hands. And I want you to ask, is Tanner merciful? Is Tanner vengeful? Did Tanner show remorse? No. And I think that's important. Talked a little bit about adjusting to jail. You know what? I fully expect somebody who's staring down the barrel of you sitting here as a jury would probably act right while they're in jail. Well, how did he act when he didn't have that? How did he act when he didn't have that incentive? It's right here. It's right there. That's how he acted when he didn't have that. So, when you want to say he's rehabilitated, he hadn't had access to anybody else. And I believe giving him access to anyone else in life in prison is a mistake. He should never have access to hurt anyone again. Ever. Now, we talked about whether or not Tanner showed remorse, and I don't really know why we need a psychologist and a bunch of excuses to explain to us how someone shows remorse. I mean, was remorse to lie? You want to use the suicide note? Well, it said, yeah, I'm sorry, but. It said, well, I'm going to throw out a whole new theory out there for the family to cause them more pain. Make up another story that they're going to have to deal with. That somehow remorse? I don't even know what the word that lady used. I can't even spell it. But if you got to have a degree in psychiatry and psychology and use a 12-letter word with an X in it, I really don't think you're really remorseful. You know, I dug through some stuff. That's a bunch of reports, notes, everything that came right over here. Everybody, how many 100 hours? 100 hours or more? How many psychologists, how many experts? You know what you won't find in this box right here? I'm sorry. Not a single time in this entire box. Now what this entire box is full of, it's all about Tanner. He's more than happy to talk about his life. More than happy to talk about his problems. He's more than happy to talk about that. But you would think, in 100 hours, you would think all those experts, somewhere, someplace, one single time, stop what you're doing, quit talking about me, and just say, I'm sorry. I don't think that's too much to ask. But you can dig. It ain't in there. Now, Vince wants you to give him credit, if you will, for coming in here and pleading guilty. I think it's bigger than that. I think if people are truly remorseful and people truly take responsibility for their actions, truly, then those are those people that we should talk to about that. But that's not what we have here. Not in any form or fashion. We have an individual that continued to lie and make up stories all the way through January of 26. That is not someone who's taking responsibility for their actions. That is somebody who continues to lie, divert, and is attempting to continue to change the narrative about themselves. Now, this whole catastrophe theory. You know, if you really believe that a 7-year-old girl knows what it looks like for somebody to be doing blow on the hood of their FedEx truck, that's crazy. The simple truth is that's another lie like anything else. And you know how I know it's a lie? Because once you find out that we've got you dead to rights, you make up another story that fits your narrative. This fits his narrative. Just like everything else, just like every other lie. But you know what the problem is? What the problem with this whole catastrophe theory is, the expert up there, Dr. Ryan, Ms. Anderson just did the same thing. You said you went from A to Z. Wait a minute. Did he go from A to Z? No. He didn't. He said, you're pretty. Take off your shirt. Take off your clothes. That's not A to Z. Stopping off in the middle to sexually gratify yourself on the child you just kidnapped. That's not catastrophe. That is a true predator. Someone who stripped a child away from their home, took pleasure in sexually assaulting them, and killed her. That is not catastrophe. Because that's the whole thing. That's why every expert up here ignored that one part. Why Ms. Anderson ignored that one part. Because you can't explain it with catastrophe theory. You just stopped off in the middle of your catastrophe and did this. That's not what we're talking about here. That is true evil, is what that is. Now, you know, we talk about these interrogations. I don't know how much nicer that Ranger Espinosa could have been. I don't know how much more friendly he could have been. And I don't know why we continue to try to excuse Mr. Horner's conduct. Clearly he thought he could come in there and make some kind of deal. But let's look at the bigger picture here. Let's look at all of this. What is this? It's selfishness. It's internal selfishness. It's nothing to do with her. Nothing to do with her. It's all about him. It's everything that's in that box. It's all about him. That is selfishness, is what that is. Is that he is coming there and he is saying, hey, I'll tell you what you want, but you got to give something to me. And I want something. I want to see my kid. Where did Athena spend Christmas? Did she get to have videos with the Christmas that year? Nope. Now, we keep talking about excuse, and we keep hearing people tell me it's not an excuse, but I hear all of this stuff that's going on led up to this offense. All of this stuff that's going on supposedly in his mind led up to this catastrophe. All of this stuff that's going on because he had stress from work. He had a change in routes. All of this stuff led to something else. That's simply saying, yeah, I did it, but, and that's the key. I did this, but hey, look at this. That is the definition of somebody trying to excuse their conduct. And I'll be honest with you. One of the things that really got me fired up in this case was there are thousands of people in the world. We know them. They're sometimes our friends, our family. Thousands of people in the world that have disabilities. Thousands of people in the world that are autistic. And they get up every day. They live their life. They work. They have families. They struggle. They succeed. And they fail. But the one thing they never do is use it as a crutch.
Your Honor, we would object. The state is trying to create a nexus between the mitigation and the offense, which is not allowed.
Overruled. How much longer do we have a juror that needs to take a break? How much longer do you anticipate being? Not trying to cut you off.
How much longer do I have?
You've got about 25 more minutes.
got you. Let me end with this. When we talk about two things, future danger. Every single expert that got up here, every single one, told you they would have never predicted this. They would have never predicted he would have hurt this little child. They would have never predicted that he would have sexually assaulted her. They would have never predicted this whatsoever. They were wrong. Absolutely wrong, and every one of them admitted it, that they were wrong. So anybody who comes up here and tells you today that they can somehow predict the lethality of this man at a later date is wrong. Here's what we know. We know he has a capacity for maximum violence. He has a capacity for victimization. He has a propensity for sexual assault. Now, all of those we know. I don't need an expert to tell me that. I can look at the autopsy report. I can look at the pictures. So when you talk about future danger, look at the facts. Look at what he's capable of. Look at what he's done. And don't think that there's not some other victim out there waiting. Don't think that. If you think, this is the way I think about this. If you put a man-eating tiger in a cage, he doesn't somehow become a vegetarian. And that's exactly what we have here. Just because you cage this lethality doesn't mean it goes away. But hey, we wouldn't have predicted this. We wouldn't have predicted this, but you can trust us now. He won't do it again. I submit to you that the only option here is to prevent him from doing that permanently. Don't give him access to anyone else. Now, mitigation. There is nothing I can tell you.
Hang on, Mr. Staley. Juror has to take a break. Go ahead. No, come on, everybody's got to go. We'll start up at 10 after 11. No, I wouldn't. 10 after 11, everybody.
Go this way.
Yes.
Wow. Terry, Cody, your reaction, start with Terry. What's your reaction to what we just heard from these,
Well, my reaction is that we've heard the same thing we've heard from day one. We haven't heard anything new. I don't think this jury's going to change their mind on the fact that this man has no mitigating circumstances that would rise to the level of reducing his culpability in this offense. And I think it's going to be very clear. I'm sitting here shaking my head at some of the descriptions that the defense has used. Why would you ever bring up that Chicken, the cellmate, would call him an itty-bitty baby lamb when he has absolutely murdered the life out of a 7-year-old? I don't understand some of the things that have been brought up and that are said in this entire process. And, you know, again, I'm going to say that everything that I say is weighted because I saw the video when he abducted her and I heard the audio of him murdering her. So everything I say, the jury's thinking too. I think it and the jury's thinking it, and everything is completely slanted. When I hear any kind of comments about he's an itty bitty baby lamb, you've got to be kidding me.
Cody?
Yeah, I mean, this presentation by the defense fell flat, you know, from the visual cues they didn't take. I mean, the first thing they did was remove this picture, which, by the way, is usually sitting right in front of the judge's bench the entirety of the trial. For whatever reason, optically, they
That was
chose to
tone
remove
deaf.
her. I mean, if you've never heard the phrase "read the room," I'm not understanding why that decision was made. Or, I mean, certainly there's a group of people, usually of attorneys. Hey, I have an idea. Okay, that one I would have thrown in the garbage. Okay, that's just not what you do in these kind of cases. Your client pled guilty. Okay, and then she wants to get up, or whichever one, and blame the ranger. So again, remember when the selfish behavior of this defendant, it's mercy is all about me. Justice is us.
Right.
Us. And so this whole mercy, me, that's all about him. And to come into a closing argument and to make a statement against the Rangers,
Right.
saying they mocked him.
Oh,
I mean, we're
Or
at the-
lied, or even lied to him.
you
well,
and you
I'm
and
going
I,
to go through the rest of it.
we all
Okay, good.
looked
I'm
at
gonna
each
go
other
through the
like,
rest of it.
what?
Like your client pled guilty because he was dead to rights. You know, the Rangers were doing their job, extracting information, building a rapport, and the male defense attorney, I don't know his name, says they made fun of him. Oh, poor itty bitty Mr. Defendant. We made fun of him. Well, no, the man literally asked, after he admitted to violently doing what he did to this sweet child, he asked if he could get out to go see his son, his little 1-year-old son. But the lawyers are making it seem, I mean, the lawyer says, well, if he had the money, he could have gotten out. Well, I'm sure that made the jury feel a lot better. I bet they would have
because we
slept
really
real
wanted him
safe.
on the
Yeah,
streets.
we want him hanging out in the neighborhood tonight.
Well, and I guarantee you, if he had made bail, they would have upped it.
Yeah.
There's no way he was ever getting out.
Every part of this, and again, it's not until they bring the second lawyer up, do they put Athena's picture back up on the stand, and she's talking about merciful, being benevolent, being vengeful, every single thing, like we talked about, that James will just flip around in his closing to say none of these things existed with this defendant when he
Right.
did all these. You know, but again, somehow he wants to reap this benefit. Just to go back real quick on this whole cocaine
Yeah, let's
thing.
talk about that.
Okay, this is something that really, for the viewers, this changed. This was his last lie.
Yep.
This is what's called backdoor hearsay, which is technically evidence.
Well, I don't even know if it was his last lie. We also had the lie told the detectives that claiming that there was a man with a rifle that tried to kidnap
No.
him. And the suicide note.
I'm saying later on. Yes, that was in
We got multiple lies,
the
lots
letters.
of lies, yeah.
That was one of the last one where he deflected when he purportedly apologized to the family, which is nonsense. But I'm saying where I can get a new theory in
Right.
through my expert without me testifying about
Right.
it, and have them bite off on this or try to sell this to a jury. And they call this the catastrophic cocaine
Right.
theory.
The
I mean,
trigger.
that they've run through, and the defense just they acknowledge this, which again I didn't think was very effective, but saying that they caught him. Athena saw him according to the defendant again, who got this in through the expert, or maybe 2 out of 20. None of the other experts even mentioned this, to say that he was worried again about him losing his job because a 7-year-old would know what cocaine looked like. I mean, the aggravation, and that's what this is at this point. They've turned purported mitigation into aggravation.
Well, again, we have noise in the courtroom.
Hold on.
We had to take a break. One of the jurors needed to take a break.
Okay, let's see. I'm listening. All right, folks. Looks like the jury's come back in the room. Okay, folks are sitting down again. All right, kill our mic, Zeke.
All right, everyone may be seated. Mr. Staton, you may continue.
Judge, appreciate the break.
We all appreciate you for doing that.
I don't have much more, ladies and gentlemen, of the jury. When we stopped, I was talking about mitigation. In mitigation, we talk about the definition of it as something that reduces someone's moral blameworthiness. I don't know how there's anything possible in this case that reduces the moral blameworthiness of taking an innocent child, gratifying yourself on an innocent child, and then committing the kind of brutal murder that one committed. I can't see how there's anything that mitigates that reduces anybody's moral blameworthiness. But you know, this is what we get in capital murder cases. We get a capital murder diversion, is what I call it. Is basically you got somebody living their life, doing what they're doing, working, got a family, doing their best, succeeding, failing, buying a car, doing all those things, not being treated really for anything in their life, just working and doing what they're doing. But all of a sudden, they commit a horrific act. And the experts come out in droves to start explaining every single ailment that they possibly could have. And that's what happens in these cases. Nothing was going on in your life that caused you to have any issues before. You had a job, you were doing things normally, you were making some poor decisions. I mean, I submit to you that anything bad that is happening to Tanner Horn at that time is by his own doing. You know, you're not going to keep a job if you're out doing coke on the weekends and partying. You're not going to keep a job if you stay up all night and play video games. You're not going to keep a job or a relationship if you're doing acid on a regular basis. These are all things that are somebody's choices. They don't have anything to do with any disabilities or deficits that you have. So I think that you know, to come here and to say, hey, now I wouldn't really have any problems before, but now I want everybody to look at this. I don't think that makes sense. So remember what every single expert said, and we did ask him the same thing. One, did he know what he was doing? And every expert, including Dr. Brahms, the last expert we had up here, I asked her, did he know what he was doing when he kidnapped her? She wouldn't give me that when she subscribed to this catastrophe theory. But when it came to the sexual assault, she said, yeah, he knew absolutely what he was doing to her when he was doing it. And then when I asked her about killing her, he absolutely knew that what he was doing was going to cause her harm. Those are her words. That was the first question. And the second question we always ask is, did any of these conditions, any of these things, this litany of things that are out there, true or false, did they have anything to do with this? No. And that's what it comes back to. For all intents and purposes, Tanner Horner was driving a FedEx truck. And I believe he had fantasized about this. I believe this was something he had in his mind.
Counsel's opinions are not relevant.
Stay within the record.
The experts told you that he fantasized about things. He fantasized about what he wanted to be. He fantasized about being superhero. I think it's reasonable to believe that he planned this as well. This was something that was in his mind.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Counsel's opinion is not relevant.
Overruled.
Like Dr. Arandula said, these things don't just spontaneously occur. And now you've heard some evidence of that. You heard some evidence of things that happened in the past, where he had done things in the past to victimize people. It never came out. You heard Billy come up here and struggle to talk about that. I think that's important, that he was able to come up here and tell you what happened to him. I think the two victims that came up here that were assaulted by Tanner Horner took a lot of bravery to come up here and talk to you about that. I think that that's important. So all of that goes to say that there's no doubt that this was coming. We were just waiting on it. So when we talk about going to prison and serving life without parole, all we're doing is waiting on it to happen again. That's all we're doing. And now all of Tanner's victims are in the same cage with him. Now he doesn't have to go find them. So I submit to you that the only proper verdict is one that prevents him from doing that. Now, we talk about structure and consistency. We talk about sameness. We talk about lack of change. Yeah, the Polunsky unit, Livingston, Texas, has all of that. And what else it has is protection. It's protection for every single person who he might victimize in the future. That's the right place. That's the place where he needs to be. That's the place where there's consistency. That's the place where there's structure. That's the place where there's sameness and routine. Now, because of his actions, because of what he did, Athena, he has forfeited his right to sit around for the rest of his days, watch TV, play video games, hang out, go outside, see the sun on his face, have a job, walk around the prison like everybody else. He has forfeited that right here, because of his own actions, not because of anything else, but because of what he did. What I'm going to end with here is this. Everybody's got things, two things actually. Everybody, we all have things that are mitigating in our life. The difference between us and him is we don't use that as an excuse. Now, the depth of what he caused, the level of evil, the level of pure blackness in one's heart. It's not only just Athena, it's her family, it's the community, it's all of us. And I think that we've all lived through this. And I want to tell you just a short story about the level of pain, about the level of trauma that this has caused to this family. A lot of you guys, I'm here, I'm the DA, you probably think I meet with people, I have to give them bad news sometimes, and I do. That's part of my job. But not like this. The story I'm going to tell you is the story of when I had to sit down with this family and I had to detail to them what exactly happened in this case. I had to sit down with them.
Your Honor, objection, this is outside the record.
Stay within the record.
So whenever you have these cases, families are very involved. Been here at all the court dates. You guys can see that. It's important that we consider all of this when we make our verdict. And the level of pain, the level of abuse that he has inflicted upon this little girl and this family are unfathomable. The level of lies, the multiple different versions of whatever truth it is, that video, everything you saw, it's important. Athena is important. Justice for her is important. And justice in this case has one result. I want to thank all of you for being here. I've been away from your families, being away from your work. I appreciate your effort in this case. It's been a long month, and I'm going to await your verdict. Thank you.
Up until this point, you have been unable to discuss this case amongst yourselves because the evidence had not been concluded. But that restriction is now lifted. Retire to your jury and begin your deliberations. If you need me, write me a note. I'll be right out here. All right? All rise.